Hi fam, welcome to another episode of بدون سكر. Today's episode has a very, very special announcement that I didn't even think I'll ever say it. But I'll tell you about it later, so watch the episode. Today's session is actually with an ex-colleague turned friend. First, I didn't think this episode fits in the new direction, which is me becoming a trauma recovery coach, but she taught me a lot of things, and I take that back. So today I'm with Marine. We've met 10 years ago.
Yeah, at least.
We used to work together. And then we were connected recently over the love of changing our career and wanting to do something a little bit more meaningful with our time and who we are actually. And this is where we're at. So Marine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, like we said, I used to work in advertising, and I shifted careers a few years ago, but it all started when I got my firstborn, Kinan, my son, 7 years ago now, because I was thinking what kind of birth I wanted. And it's not something you think ahead of being pregnant.
Yeah, people just show up.
Exactly. And you're like, okay, what do I want? Because people ask me, like, what are you thinking about for your birth? And my mom told me, you should go without epidural. I did it. And because she's someone super scared and all, I'm like, okay, if she did it, maybe I can do it. Because also I'm into natural healing and natural medicine and stuff like that. So it made sense that I want to go the natural way. So I started to study the physiology of birth. I had absolutely no clue about it. And I found it fascinating. It's really like a word that no one knows about. So while studying this, I obviously applied it to myself. And I had one of the most beautiful births because I felt really empowered. I actually thought about every single detail. I studied and researched a lot of things that I couldn't even imagine before. And then I brought my baby to life the way I wanted. I put a birth plan, 2 pages, like they were a bit shocked in the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, I only started hearing of birth plans a year ago
Yeah.
on some reel. Like, it doesn't seem real.
I was so invested.
Yeah.
And this was the best experience of my life. And I started to tell people about it. Every time I wanted to tell my birth story because I wanted to actually inspire people to do the same. But here in Dubai, you know how it is. It's like very medicalized.
Yeah.
So people are like, yeah, my doctor said I should do 1, 2, 3. My midwife told me that I should go this way. When I delivered, the doctor told me it's better if I do C-section for 1, 2, 3 reasons. So then I realized women don't know the power they have in themselves.
You don't know.
They don't know that. And I felt like it's my role to actually start telling them because I've studied it for myself. I didn't know a doula existed. I didn't even know it was a job.
I think I only heard about the term doula also a year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Even now, my friends are like, what is a doula?
Yeah, I think it's been really institutionalized like maybe 10, 15 years ago, but in the US mainly first, and then in other countries like Western countries. Here it's quite recent. You do have strong networks of doula that I think actually because they are very strong, like they have a very strong bond and they really help each other. So yeah, there is a very strong network of doula in Dubai, and this is when I started contacting them because I was like, okay, now I know there is a job called doula, and how do I go about it? And I started to do training here. Like they actually, one of the biggest institute of doulas training came to Dubai. I've done the workshops, then I started studying for the certification and all. And in the meantime, I started to help women. At first, it was more informal because I
Just
wasn't
friends.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't feeling like I have any legitimacy, you know. But then the more I studied, the more I felt
imposter
like
syndrome.
yeah, exactly. But now, I mean, I've studied so much. I've actually practiced it with women, so I really feel I make a difference.
So what is a doula?
So a doula is someone who supports women in childbirth during and also before, during and after. We focus on emotional support. We focus as well on physical preparation and as well on informational support. So we give a lot of, like we're not like trained as midwives, but we know a lot about the physiology of birth.
Okay, then what's the difference between midwife and a doula?
So a midwife is a trained medical professional who is actually...
so it is medical.
It is medical. She's here to actually deliver the baby.
Okay.
She does know about the physiology of birth more than a doctor because An obstetrician is focused on the medical aspect in terms of pathology.
See, we're never taught these things.
Exactly.
Because here all your dealings are with your gyno. But then I was surprised to know that in the West, sometimes you don't even see your gyno unless there's a complication, a medical problem, something like that. It's actually your midwife. Here we don't have that.
Exactly, especially in the Netherlands.
Yes.
The Netherlands is like the case study, because everything is done through midwives. They actually deliver mostly at home. If you want to deliver in the hospital, you have to pay. So yeah, that's actually the system there, because they believe that it's a physiological event. It's not a medical one. It becomes medical when you have a pathology behind. But if you don't have an underlying pathology, then you're just going to deliver physiologically. Your body is going to do the work.
I think we forget it's very natural. You know what I mean by like, this is what we've been doing for so long. And medical, okay, I get you need to be medically prepared, blah, blah, but you don't need medical intervention in that sense. Obviously, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a surgery in that sense. It is something going to happen with or without someone. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
You can't stop it.
Exactly. No, that's the interesting part, because when women start to know about those things, they start to be empowered and they start to realize that I can actually prepare my body to give birth in the best conditions. Yeah. If they know all the in and outs, if they realize that all the nitty-gritty details, they can actually have control somehow over it. Like, for example, pain management. Pain is a very big...
They just tell you you're going to be drugged and you have no choice. Yeah.
So they kind of make you feel pain is bad. Pain is negative.
Good point.
Actually, in childbirth, pain is what helps you to actually deliver your baby. So it's your lie. Pain is your lie. You just need to manage it. You don't need to remove the pain. You need to manage the pain. And you have so many ways to
more
manage
and more people don't want to. I thought was interesting is, I didn't know, first of all, there's so many different ways to give birth. I thought it was just something, you just go to the hospital, you lay down and do it. But apparently that's really wrong. And recently, I don't know if you saw it, but there's a statistics in the Western world where actually the US was leading in childbirth mortality. Leading.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the West. And that's why we think it's the best option. I don't know why. I mean, you know why. We just like to copy what's happening there. But in reality, no, there's a lot of things that are being done that's not necessarily for the health and the best, for the woman.
Exactly.
And women get, universally speaking, women get shut down and gaslit by doctors a lot. That's why they're misdiagnosed most of the time. That's why they're underdiagnosed most of the time. So I think women feel they lack any knowledge. You go to a doctor and they tell you you're wrong most of the time, so they feel that they don't have any power or knowledge or ability to even speak up. Like, I didn't even know people can choose a childbirth or a child plan until I saw someone posting from my friends that she had this setup. She had, what was it? Like, some music and some, what's called candles and all of that. And then she said, oh, I didn't go the way I wanted to. I was like, I didn't know there was a choice to begin with.
You have a choice. You have a choice, and you should have the choice, because if you're well prepared in advance, if you know your options, then you can choose whatever fits you.
I think people don't know their options.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
They think it's one-way street and that, okay, the doctor said so, I should follow the doctor. But you have instincts, and women have very deep instincts. This is what we're trying to awaken when we work with women. Like, I always do the preparation based on her specific background. And since we're talking about trauma, this is a very important topic, because one of the first questions I ask is, how is your relationship with your body? How do you perceive your body? Do you even imagine that your body is capable of giving birth? And you would see that the answers are not so straightforward.
And actually, to build on that, throughout my trauma recovery coaching that I'm learning, is trauma actually disconnects people from the body and sense of self and body. And a lot of the recovery that people need to do is starting to read your body, be intuitive with it. So I can't even imagine how a traumatized or trauma survivor would react to those questions. So what kind of answers do you get?
So first, it's always a bit like hesitant. So they don't want to say too much at first. They're a little bit cautious about what they say. But then you realize that there is an underlying issue that you need to uncover. Because if you don't do that, then you just go with the flow. And then the day of childbirth, you're going to realize a lot of things are wrong with this woman. Like, she hasn't processed everything. So it's helping her to process. Obviously, I'm not a trauma recovery coach, and I would always tell her, go to a professional, because you need to work these things out. But the fact of giving birth, the actual action of giving birth, is is making you feel losing control. The body is taking over in a way because mentally you can't control what's happening.
That's so scary.
And it's scary. But once you learn how to give in the control to the body, then you actually feel like empowered in a way, because you know that your mind and your body are so connected, and one is giving the ability to the other to take over the control and to let it go. And then, so I will just explain to you a little bit, because it's very important to understand that we have different states of consciousness. You have obviously the beta frequencies, which is when we are talking right now, we are thinking straight, logically, and everything. When you go into labor, at first you may still be in the beta frequencies, but then slowly you will go into delta and then theta, which is another
like
state.
A stream of consciousness that you're not aware of.
Exactly. You're not thinking, you don't have a rational mind. You're just basically letting your body, it's like you're dreaming, for example. You know, when you're sleeping, you don't control what's happening to your body. You know, maybe sometimes you have people sleepwalking. They don't control what's happening. So it's the same state. You need to go in that state to let your body take over.
By the way, for trauma survivors, that's almost impossible. A lot of trauma survivors picked up really destructive coping mechanisms that are all about control and not letting other things take over. I can't. Yeah, it is a very scary experience. I didn't know it was that. They just tell you, you just go, you drug yourself, you get out.
No,
really,
that's the wrong way to approach it, because then this is where you're prone to interventions. So if you want to have a physiological, natural birth, you need to allow your body to take over, and you need to let your brain go deep in those waves. But then at the same time, when you go deep in those waves, this is where the hormone starts to play as well. So you have a very important hormone called oxytocin. We call it the hormone of love. Yes. I'll let you imagine why we call it like that. But it's the same principle, basically. When you are with this hormone...
I didn't know you release oxytocin during.
This is actually the main hormone that triggers the labor and the contractions. If you don't have the oxytocin, it means that you have too much adrenaline and cortisol. The cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol are antagonists to oxytocin. Sorry, so it's a bit technical, but it goes against it. So when you have, let's say you're in your labor, you start to feel like the oxytocin is on, you're actually laboring very well, consistently, and then you have someone entering the room, starting to ask questions, looking at the monitoring, looking worried, telling you, okay, I want you to sleep in that bed now and be strapped, and you hear the beeping. Yeah. How can you go back to that state? How can you let the flow of hormones like make it work? So then you have the cortisol. You look at the person's face. You're like, I'm not feeling well right now. And this is when your labor stops.
And you're also not in a logical frame.
Exactly.
Mindset, sorry. Yeah, you're not. You're already, so with the, not necessarily trauma people just pick up on, so 90% of what people pick up is nonverbal cues. Yeah. So this is a lot of nonverbal cues, and you are already in a vulnerable situation. I can only imagine how much it can exacerbate the process.
Of course. So this is where the thing starts to be a bit complicated, because then your body is not in control anymore, and your mind is freaking out. So then if your labor stops, what's going to happen? It's going to make everyone worry in the room. So then they're going to tell you, we need to augment the labor, and then they have like those medicine that actually help the labor start over. But this is unnatural. You know, like any inducing method, this is not the body deciding that it's ready, the baby deciding that I'm going to go down. So really, like, if you lose this control, you're kind of already losing the battle, because you're going to have an intervention that will probably lead to another intervention, because then you're not going to be able to cope with the pain anymore. If you're not in this state helps you as well to cope with the pain. Okay, you go in your head, no one is around, no one around matters. The way you react doesn't matter. You can react in a very wild animal way. No one will, you don't care anymore. You know?
Yeah, you hear that. Yeah, a lot of women leave childbirth different.
Yes, it's transformative.
Like, I've seen women who are timid and shy become a different person. And I remember some friends were telling me that it's a different kind of strength that you get after that, and you're just it leaves you in a different person. Let's say.
I call it the rite of passage. You shed old part of yourself to welcome a new person, because you are becoming a new person. From that day on, you're a mother.
And this is what I see. So I saw a lot of women after childbirth struggling with who they are, and the struggle is real. Like I can see in their eyes, they're very uncomfortable with the change, and I assume that's because of a lot of unprocessed trauma as well, and lack of acceptance of wanting to change.
Exactly. And everyone has different ways to approach childbirth. Everyone will have at some point an ideal birth scenario in their head. But when it's taken away by the medical caregivers because things have happened, they're not trained to protect the system, like the brain system, the hormone system. They're not trained for that. They're trained to track pathology.
Save your life.
Exactly, save your life and your baby.
Yeah.
But you might get out of this experience completely broken because
saving your life is not dying.
Yeah.
Not necessarily are you living well.
Exactly. Like a lot of women, they realize like, I could have lost my baby. I thought I was dying. I wasn't comfortable with what's happening to me because no one prepared me for it. So for a lot of different reasons, you could go out of this experience feeling completely broken. And the people will tell you, listen, your baby is healthy. You're healthy.
They don't get it.
They don't get what's the same experience can be stored in the brain different ways, so in the nervous system, and this is where some store it in a place where trauma can.
So actually, part of what I'm doing is, so trauma memory is different than normal memory. So normal memory changes throughout time. You forget details. Trauma memory, what they found, I think they did the study in the 80s and 70s, is it remains intact. So people, how people just tell you get over it. Why are you still in the past? Because it's still there, and the only way to get over it is to remember it correctly and integrate it and remove the fact that it's trauma. It's easier said than done. There's a lot of work you have to do. But imagine if you're not a traumatized person and then you become traumatized from birth, all the work you have to put through to remove that or change that. And also you're dealing with all the life changes and the hormonal shifts.
Yeah, no, it's intense. And
it's avoidable.
Yeah, it is avoidable if you give back the power to women. You need to make sure they are well prepared for even for the non-ideal scenario that could arise. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
So the options
that could happen, like if, like God forbid, you go into C-section, but you didn't want a C-section, try to process the idea that maybe if you go into C-section, what do I want for the C-section to be acceptable for me? And you have so many ways to make it gentle.
So what's the role of the doula then during this time?
So, like I said before, it's really about preparation, body, emotional, informational. We do the birth plan together. When we are during the labor and childbirth.
So you are in the labor?
We are there.
Okay.
Of course, if the person doesn't want, it's up to her. Okay, we don't
You're not going to force yourself.
No. But most of the time they need us because they trust that we know them. We know what they want. We are the guardian of their wishes. And we're here to advocate, but not directly to the medical caregivers, because we do this. That's why the partner is very important, because through the partner we can empower him to let her do and to have exactly what she wants. So usually we talk to the partner, please remember that she wanted this, please remember that she's not comfortable with this right now. She's not in the state of mind that enables her to tell people what she wants or doesn't want. So you are the one who can actually be that voice. So we're here to remind him, to whisper to his ear, but we're also here with her physically. We comfort her. We help, all those things that we prepared in advance. We prepare breathing. We prepare pain management methods, the ambience, protecting her space. We're not just here to do, we're here to be sometimes. Sometimes I would be
just
sitting.
Presence, by the way.
My presence, she knows I'm here. And just the fact that she knows I'm here whenever she needs to reach me, that's enough sometimes. Protecting the space as well. Whenever she's in the middle of a contraction, you don't want anyone to come talk to her, right? So you need to protect that space. We do this with the partner, of course, but we kind of tell the midwives, listen, now she wants to labor in the water. It happened to one of my clients. She was in the water because she wanted a birth labor, and a water labor, and then after 2 minutes she entered the water. The midwife came. So the obstetrician wants you to get out because they want you to be monitored for 45 minutes.
Why?
To check how things are going. I'm like, she literally just entered the water. Now she's having contraction very close to each other. So can we just give her at least 20, 25 minutes before? nothing is going to happen bad. Just like let her, and we will do the monitoring right after. I promise we will do it slowly, but let her just labor a little bit. So we're here to...
Do you get a pushback when you say something like that?
Sometimes, yeah, but we are very cautious. We don't want to be confrontational. We actually want... usually I like to meet the midwife team before. I like to introduce myself before, saying that I have a client. She's going to deliver in this hospital around that date. I'm Marine. I'm her doula. I want things to go well. I just want you to know me so that, nothing is going to go wrong. Usually they accept all of that. Like, in fact, in the room at the last stages, even if they are friends or whatever, everyone goes out except the husband and the doula. We're the two people allowed. But at the end of the day, yes, it's not... even you would see, like, if everything goes well, the obstetrician doesn't do anything. Like, he comes to make sure if anything happens, he's here. But the obstetrician, technically, his role is just to intervene only if there is something really going wrong, and to save the baby's life or to save the mother's life. Nothing more than that. The midwives are purely, like, very, very capable to deliver the baby. The mother can choose her positions. This is also something very important.
Yes, apparently the position that we know about is is man-made.
Exactly.
Because remember the story? So the I don't know if you guys know about this, but the story of why women give birth the way they conventionally give birth is because I don't know if it's like French or English king, I can't remember. A French king just loved watching women give birth that way. And that's it. And they adopted that.
Yes,
and
I've heard about that. That's a legend. The actual thing is that it's just easier for the caregivers to get the baby out, to see the baby turning, the head coming out. So they can have a better visibility, which is in a way understandable. They want to make sure they get the baby out the best way. So, like, very good. But then for the mother, sometimes this is not the best position. They need, like, if you think about it, there is a gravity law. And this follows the gravity law. So you wouldn't think of doing few things lying down, like this is also very physiological. Again, it needs to go the right way. And instinctively, you would not feel comfortable to do it this way. Instinctively, you feel something is wrong. When I delivered both in this position because, again, no one was here with me to advocate, and I was not in the state to advocate for myself. Otherwise, I would have said something. But yeah, like I've had clients who got their position the way they wanted because they mentioned it in the birth plan, and the husband was advocating for them because the doula was whispering in their ear. So this chain of communication worked. They can't say no if you feel like I'm fine like this, please, like I'm pushing already, it's too late, like don't change my position. They're gonna have to adapt to you, and they would gladly do it. I'm sure, like midwives are more and more open-minded to those things.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so I think it's time to make the announcement. Okay, so as you guys know, I've spoken a few episodes before that I didn't even know I wanted kids, and my numbers are not necessarily positive, and this is why it's very weird for me to even be here saying that I am actually pregnant and Marine will be actually my doula, and I'm scared, to say the least. And this is unexpected, and I am scared, and there's so much information, and I'm trying my best not to actually be bombarded with information, because I feel like you're already in a very vulnerable place where you're adamant not to make a bad choice, Obviously no one wants to, but there's so much out there, and there's so much misinformation, as we said. There are too many options suddenly. Before that, you just go in, deliver, get out, you don't care, but then you end up being traumatizing your baby. And the more and when I found out, I was in the thick of my certification about childhood trauma. So I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to make sure that I am in the best shape possible, especially a lot of the studies have found and research have found that whatever intense emotions the mother feels, especially in the last trimester, usually gets transferred to the child. And also they found that, for example, if you're in your 5th month of pregnancy and you are pregnant with the girl has already developed her own eggs. So not only will you impact your own child, it's also your grandchildren. Maybe there's many more generations than that, but that's what the science has been saying. And the same if it's a boy, because they have the sperm cells within them. So the fact is, what you were saying in the beginning about there's so much trauma that you have to process first before doing that is really important, because that's all I can think about. Like, how do I prevent the generational cycles that I had? because I was getting there. How do I prevent making the wrong choices? Because even unnecessary C-sections can increase your likelihood for a child to develop autism, to develop bad gut microbiome because you're not going through the right ways. There's so much there, and it's really scary. And I remember I went to Marina. I was like, I'm so scared. I don't know what to say. I don't know where to hear and where to get my information. But here we are. So I wanted to bring her on with us because I think this is a very important conversation, especially that I've noticed a lot of women are pregnant as well around the same time. And you have choice. And this is what I want. I want to have choice. I don't want to just go in and not know what's going on and then 10 years down the line have to deal with unresolved trauma.
Exactly. No, I mean, and it's funny you say, like, you see everyone pregnant. When you're pregnant, everyone is pregnant. It's your perception again. And you see, again, we always go back to your
bias.
perception. It's
a
bias, exactly. No, but like you said, it's so important to support women throughout, before, during, and after. We haven't talked about the postpartum. But the postpartum is something that we focus on as well. You have postpartum doula. Actually, I'm planning also to do a little bit more training on postpartum because I realize women are not ready to become a mother, like from one day to another.
I'll tell you something. Like, as someone who's going through it, all the algorithm is showing me is what products I need to buy. That's it. Product what to buy for, not even for me. And maybe I saw one or two things about what I need to do after postpartum. But that's about it. There's not a lot of conversation. You hear a lot about postpartum depression, but also it's, I don't know, there's no one source of truth where you can just go and understand what's happening. And it's understudied, underfunded, and all of that. So
there's a lot of doubts as well. Like, women from 48 hours later, they go back home with a baby. And I swear to God, the first thing I told myself when I came home with the baby is like, and now what do I do? He was sleeping, like he was all like snuggled, and I'm like, okay, now I'm on my own, because it's not like I have a button that I press like in the maternity where he cries, I press. I don't know what's happening.
Pussy.
Now you need to deal with it, and it's not always easy. Of course, sometimes you get like lucky to have a baby that sleeps through and like very quickly, barely cries, eats, that's it. But this is rarely the case. We all struggle at some point. And I think women need to be supported in the postpartum phase, because the thing is, like, there is actually 1 out of 3 women who kind of are suffering from trauma one way or another. It's not necessarily a big trauma that will be stored like for many, many, many years, but at least a trauma that will stay there for the next few weeks, that will make them feel not confident about their ability to become a mother. They are not really supported here. It's not like back in our countries where we have at least a family. We say it takes a village to raise a child, but even more so in the first few weeks and months of getting a baby, because you feel completely lost. If you don't have someone, sometimes you just need to rage. You just need to say, I can't do this. I'm so tired. This baby is driving me crazy. Sometimes even saying those things, you don't feel you're allowed to.
No, because I remember the first time I noticed that maybe childbirth isn't fun is when I saw my cousin's wife, because see, in the Arab world, after you give birth, you do this like baby shower versus doing it before. And I remember I thought I was going to see a glowing woman. She was upset. And back then I was very young. I didn't understand why. I was like, why? Shouldn't she be happy? Shouldn't she? That made me question it a lot. And now that I know, most likely you're in stitches. Most likely you're in pain. Most likely you had one of the most traumatic events in your life and no one is allowed to tell you anything. And you are not allowed to be upset. I'm only starting to read about or hear about postpartum rage. I don't know if it's hormonal or it's what you just said or maybe all of it.
It is hormonal.
But it's enough that women are not allowed to be angry in a normal, regular state, let alone after giving childbirth, because you're expected to be a cloud nine, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, because you're just like, you're born a mother as soon as you're a woman. You are supposed to have it figured out, but you cannot have it figured out in just a few weeks. It's so new, it's so transformative again. And if you had a traumatizing childbirth, imagine how you feel after that. So your body doesn't feel good. You don't feel good mentally. You're not surrounded by people who actually let you express your feelings, support you. Sometimes you just need a nap for an hour and no one is here to give it to you, because you're at home, you're in maternity leave, or you're not working.
Yeah, people sometimes call it a vacation when it's not a vacation.
It's not a vacation. So you need support. You need other women maybe who have been through it to actually be there with you, understand you. I'm telling you, like, the first few weeks, taking a shower is your me time. It's like, oh my God, I took a shower.
My shower is like 5 minutes. I take a 5-minute shower.
But but this is to tell you like the change it is, and it becomes better. The good thing is that if I have to continue on a positive note, it always get better. Then you will have ups and downs, but then you are feeling more of a woman. You know, there is this very famous French midwife. She says the postpartum lasts for 3 years. That's actually, she did a whole book about it, and she's very famous, and it's so true. 3 years.
How does she define postpartum then?
Postpartum, because during the first 3 years, the child is building its, like his brain is developing at a pace that it would never develop this way after. So the mother is also changing, her brain is changing constantly. She's becoming alert, she's becoming worried, but then she gets less worried because she knows how to handle. And then the terrible two happened. The terrible two is a very difficult and challenging period for parents and for the kids. Obviously, the kid is actually struggling with a lot of emotions that he can't process properly. So the parent needs to actually be able to be patient, to accompany, get the kid to actually process those emotions. It's not easy at all, you know, for the parents and for the kids. So it takes 3 years, because after 3 years, you're almost like, I don't know, certified mother. You know, you can't be stamped, you know, I'm done. Like I know the in and out, and I know how to handle this kid. I know his personality by now. He can talk. He goes to school, you know, it's a step. And then this is when you think of having a second child.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes. Or even before. But yeah, like 3 years, it's what it takes.
And also mothers. I read, I don't know if it's true, it takes 2 years for hormones to go back to normal.
Yes, also. The hormonal shift. Yeah, it's you have a drop of hormone whenever you deliver the baby. It takes a few days where everything shifts. So a hormone will go down, a new hormone will go up. Like it's a cocktail that completely shifts. So imagine what it does to your personality, to your emotions.
Oh my God, I've been vicious. I've been so vicious. I got better, but the first 3 months, even Ahmed was like, "You never been that way." I was like, "Well, I've never been pregnant." But also, it's I don't like being called hormonal or it's just the hormones. It's not, because it's some things there, but of course things are just, how do I say it? Hard to ignore. You know, they're ever present. They're just I was very vicious.
Exactly. You're very vulnerable. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. You feel there's a big feeling of unsafety.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about, you know, like there's a lot of fears about being pregnant, or the perception of what does it mean. Like a few years ago, I remember my therapist was like, "I really think having kids will help you." I said no. I was like, I bluntly said no, I don't want kids, I'm not ready for it. And she started asking me why. And I stated a lot of the things of my childhood trauma, like, oh, kids will leave you, you get too attached, they're gonna hurt you, look at this, like, what's the point of it? And also part of it is my hormonal issues. I thought I would suffer a lot, and for me, like, it was the scariest thing that could happen to me. You know, so for me, like, back to what you're saying, like, entering this already scared, partially having to deal with my own trauma, it made me be avoidant. Like, I was in some kind of denial. I didn't go through the process. I refused to see content. I refused to even use the words. For me to use the word pregnant is a big word. It's a big step for me. You know, like, I couldn't use those very baby friendly terms. So sorry, I lost track of thought. Where were we before that?
Yeah, we're talking about the postpartum trauma, and you actually touched upon a subject that is interesting, which is how do you perceive your ability to process pregnancy, because it's really weird in a way.
It's so weird
to imagine that you're growing a human inside
weird.
Your body.
Even when I went to my doctor, I was like, maybe it wasn't real. The doctor did the scan. She was like, yep, there it is. It's, especially the first few months, it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real. You don't feel anything. You don't see anything. So you're like, okay, this, but and also it gives this aspect of, okay, my body, I already don't have a good relationship with my body. And how do I trust this body to bring to life a healthy human being? Yeah. You know?
And I keep saying, I think it took years of me getting to know myself and readjusting my lifestyle and removing toxins and connecting with my body, because I was doing a lot of mindfulness, you know, a lot of the yoga, mindfulness, and all of these things that apparently is part of trauma recovery. For me, maybe to even allow myself to get pregnant without unplanned. But yeah, I don't know how you would navigate it without knowing your body. I can't imagine.
Yeah, you need to make peace with your body.
Yeah, at one point I was rejecting, like, we're not.
Dissociating.
Yes, completely. Yeah,
exactly.
completely.
Yeah. But at some point you feel the connection. You feel that, okay, my body brought me to 9 months now, and in a surprisingly healthy way, and then you start to feel like this body is actually stronger than I thought. This body is actually capable. So if the body is capable to do that while you're pregnant, maybe my body is capable of giving birth.
Just maybe.
You know? Yeah. But then this maybe leads you to actually start trusting. You need to trust your body. And this is something I keep telling my clients. If you don't fix your relationship with your body, you will not let the body take over. You will keep trying to control it with your mind. You will try to reject the pain that the body is giving you. Why my body is putting me in such a pain? And I'm not saying if you cope with the pain at the beginning, you will cope with the pain till the end, because you have a phase called transition, which is in between roughly 8 to 9 centimeters open till the 10. This is where you're like, I want to give up. I can't do it. And usually you have the doula or the partner telling you, you actually can, it's like running a marathon. I love comparing giving birth to running a marathon. God, no. You need good preparation. You need to, at first you're so motivated. It's going to be fine. And then the last mile or kilometer is the hardest somehow. You're like, okay, I'm done. I still have this. I know, but I don't know if I can do it.
It is a mind game, isn't it?
Yeah. But then this is actually the last mile that you need to run, and you're almost there. And at least you don't need to win anything. The only thing is like you need to deliver a baby safely.
Yeah, just that. Well, minor detail.
But at the end of the day, with the right support, you can turn things in your favor, and you can start be empowered. Yeah. Really, the word is, for me, like, my goal is to empower women. I want them to be decision makers of everything that happens. If there is a problem that they couldn't anticipate, the point is like, okay, tell me what you want to do and give me everything. Give me the benefits. There is this theory of the brain theory. So B for benefits, R for risks, A for alternative. What if I don't want to do this? What is the alternative? I for the intuition. Like, I believe in my intuition, what my instinct is telling me, my intuition is telling me. And the N is, what if I do nothing? What's going to happen? I will give you an example. My second child had something called IUGR, which is intrauterine growth restriction. So my placenta wasn't doing the job towards the end. So at some point after all the scans, they told me, listen, like, tomorrow we need to bring this baby out. She's very tiny. She's very
my friend had
weak.
The same.
They knew that I had a birth plan, 2 pages, that I was very adamant about those things. And they told me, listen, your baby might not be able to survive if the contractions. She's very, very weak, and contractions require a strong heart and a strong ability. So they told me, if you want to be safe, let's do a C-section. I thought about it. Thank God they gave me 24 hours to think about it. And I realized I worked so hard to reach that stage where I trust my body to do it, and I trust the link with my baby. Me and my baby, we talk a lot, I tell her how much I trust that we're going to do it together, and we're a team, and it's teamwork. So I don't want to give up last minute. So I told the doctor, listen, I don't mind that you prepare the C-section room just in case, but I want to do it my way.
Because as you're speaking, someone would be, aren't you being delusional? Like, this is not safe. Like, how?
Yes.
I know for an outsider, I know when they don't understand these things, I get it. But wasn't that a scary decision to make?
In the sense that the doctor wasn't really telling me, I'm not giving you the choice because otherwise your baby will die. She told me, your baby needs to get out within the next 48 hours, otherwise your baby will be stillborn. Yeah. So I knew that I had to deliver, but I felt so ready. And I told her, listen, you know how prepared I am. You know that I have figured this out. I've done it one time. You even told me I'm going to sneeze that baby out because of my first experience. So because she wasn't so strict about it, I felt she left the door a little bit open.
Okay.
And I went there and I started to work on my mental, on my breathing, on coping with my contractions. And actually, I was so relaxed. They were checking my the fetal heart rate. And they felt, okay, everything is going well. Okay. So this gave me a lot of positivity. They were so actually, I was really happy with the team because they were not scaring me at all. They were really with me, you know. And then they even told me, you're too relaxed, because I actually slept through the contractions a little bit, you know. I was so relaxed. So I realized I can do it. I can just make sure I control the strength of my contractions. And then everything went well at the end of the day. You know, I always say alhamdulillah, but I didn't take a bad decision, you know. So women needs to be trusted. Their instinct needs to be trusted.
I think also, I don't know, in our world or in our culture where women are taught to not speak up and not to say things, I don't know how much they'll be comfortable doing it. You know what I mean? Like, it must be revolutionary.
Yeah, it is. It is a big shift. That's why the caregivers, the hospitals, they took time to allow doula to come, because it's a disruptor for them.
Yeah, of course.
They have processes.
If someone tells me what to do, I'm like, go away.
From
This
the
is my
moment you
job.
enter the hospital, you're on a timer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't labor there for like 2 days. That's why we always tell women, don't go to the
As
hospital
soon as
before
possible, yeah.
active labor is on set, because otherwise you're just gonna be rushed.
Yeah.
Just spend as much time as possible at home. At some point, there is way to know if you're on the onset of active labor. So you can go then, and then things will start being timed, but it's okay. You still have time. There is a lot of way to help the labor go faster if it starts to be a little bit slower. There are ways to actually slow it down if it's actually too fast, you know. So you can always control.
Like, I mean, what I heard, you can only, sorry, anything that I just heard was always, you get induced. You took too long. We don't know that there are options, that there are other ways of doing it, you know.
Exactly. And those words actually are impacting your the process, because when someone tells you you're taking too long,
So what?
you know,
But so what?
Yeah, but then
Really?
you're like, okay, so something is wrong with me.
Yeah, you
Ultimately, this is
internalize.
what you think, right?
You internalize that you're
so
not.
this is where things start. You need a team that is gonna understand that you are prepared. You come with a birth plan. They're not gonna mess around with you. I'm telling you, because they're gonna be like, okay, this woman, she knows what she's
a bit
talking
too
about.
much.
You know, she was delayed cord clamping.
Yeah.
Like, this was something like I was like, do not clamp the cords, you know, because the longer you leave it, the more iron, like all the blood will come. So you need to
Usually
wait.
they cut instantly.
They kind of clamp it. They don't cut it, they clamp it.
Yeah.
But then the flow of the blood doesn't
Stops.
go anymore. So, and this is so important. It's like a lifetime of goodness for the baby, you know? So I was still like recovering. And then I'm like, do not clamp, do not clamp, do not clamp. And I had to say it several times, because they were going to clamp it,
Yeah,
even though it was on my birth plan.
Yeah.
But if I had a doula, she would be there and be like,
Yeah.
do not clamp. Remember her birth plan? So, you know, those things are really important, because when, like, I realized I felt empowered, and I'm lucky enough to say I was empowered, and I see the difference.
Yeah.
When I came back home, okay, I still didn't know how to handle a baby, and this was hard, but at least like the experience, how I actually stored this experience in my nervous system is stored in the correct drawer, you know. I feel like I want to talk about it gladly. When I think about it, I have those memories. And I've read somewhere something that even women with Alzheimer that forget a lot of their past, they never forget the childbirth.
Oh, wow.
That's so interesting.
That's powerful.
Yeah, this is something so transformative that you don't forget it, even after years and years.
No, I remember a friend of mine gave birth a few years ago, and she didn't like how it happened, because she was she wanted it natural, and then the doctor convinced her, let's say, to have emergency section. And I remember back then I didn't understand what's the big deal, because I'm like, everyone gets a C-section, whatever. But she was very upset, and she said like it felt like a failure, and the doctor had to sit down with her and really explain to her. Then later on, she found out that this doctor does it with everyone. And this is the fear. Like, even a friend of mine was like, why is it so important to find a doctor? I'm like, actually, a lot of doctors, especially here, they're on a schedule, and they put themselves first versus you. And I didn't know like a necessary C-section actually is bad for you. I didn't know a lot of these things. And yeah, my friend was telling me like it takes 6 weeks to recover, and then you're back to work.
Yeah.
Like, also, that doesn't make sense.
No.
She's like, it's not normal. You can't do anything. And you're already in a fear of what you just said. Like, this is a baby. I don't know what to do with it. It was her first. So I can only imagine being also in pain, powerless to an extent. All these emotions.
It's a surgery.
It is, exactly. And you cut through 6 layers, I think.
6 layers, exactly.
Yeah, people are just, surgery. You know, and doctors do it so well. It's so small. It's okay. It's minor. And that's the thing. Like, I remember she kept talking about it in a very, not negative, but disappointed or sad. And like now I understand, but back then, yeah, I didn't understand what was a big deal. Whatever.
Doctors tend to take decisions, like you said, for themselves, for their schedule or whatever. There is a lot of things that are routine. For example, episiotomy. We don't talk enough about the routine episiotomy.
What does it mean?
Episiotomy, it's when they cut you down there just to make more passage for the baby to come out.
Yeah.
This is actually for them a very easy procedure, so there's no risk for anything.
Yeah.
Then they stitch you, but the recovery after the episiotomy, I've got one for my first child. I didn't want an episiotomy, but I didn't think of even putting it in my birth plan, which I did for my second. I'm like, no routine episiotomy. If you want to perform an episiotomy, you need to tell me why, and I need to give you consent.
Yeah.
I remember like being very specific with that. For the second one, I didn't have an episiotomy. I had just like a mini bruise. Which means that after 2 hours, I was walking. I could even have run. Like with I was with my baby. They told me, go on a wheelchair to go to the room. I'm like, I can walk to the room. No, you just delivered the baby. I'm like, I'm perfectly fine. I have no pain. I feel perfect. I went to the bathroom. Everything is fine.
Oh, wow.
And they told me, no, you have to be on the wheelchair. So they still push you to be in the wheelchair like you're sick or something. That's why like in Europe it's very different. You deliver from home like in many countries, or in birth centers that are not so
I didn't even know those existed.
Exactly. But this is the beauty of it is that but this is for low risk women. They categorize them. So you can go in those setups if you're not a low risk pregnant woman. But all of that to say that a lot of things are routine. In hospitals, things are changing. Like, honestly, I'm happy to see in Dubai, things are really evolving. Dubai has, I mean, the UAE in general, they already are advanced in many things, which is, for example, how they help women to breastfeed. They don't propose formula. In many hospitals, they actually
again, that's another thing that I only learned about recently. The formula.
Exactly. And women were like, if you don't give them the choice, again, it's about giving them the choice. Do you want to breastfeed? Don't you want to breastfeed? If you want to breastfeed, we're here to help you. And a lot of hospitals offer lactation consultants, like visits, for example.
Good, I didn't know that.
This is a whole other topic. But honestly, this is so important because this is how you build your relationship with your baby.
It scares me. No, it scares me. I feel there's a lot I don't know, and the more I know, the worse it gets. Because it's scary. The literal meaning of decision fatigue.
Yeah, but actually, the way for you to learn the right information process is the more you learn, the more you feel confident. That's how you need to shift.
I think the more you learn, and how do I say it, in the right way, because also you can learn too much and you just create anxiety. No, exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, because there's a lot of misinformation or someone's experience over information. So that's why I went to you, or I went to my other two friends that I trust. I don't want to go too much. I don't want to hear too many opinions because they mix with opinions.
Yeah, and everyone has a different experience.
Yeah.
You can have a friend that has a very different experience. I usually don't show my experience too much when I'm with clients, because I don't want them to think that because I had beautiful birth, they will have the same kind of experience.
I think you build the expectation.
No,
right?
exactly. So the point is to know the person, to know who she is, where she comes from, what background does she have, what relationship she has with her body, what ideal birth looks like for her. And once you have all those aspects, those parameters, this is where you can actually help her and shape her perception, help her to have the right information. For example, I have no problem helping a woman that really wants a C-section. Of course, I would tell her about the physiology. But if I see that C-section is for her the number one thing, and she will not change her mind, and if she doesn't get a C-section, that would mean her childbirth is a failure, I will support her for C-section, no matter what. Because for me, what matters is not my perception of it, it's hers.
See, also, like, this is where I keep drawing parallels between you and me and what the certifications we're both doing. Even in trauma recovery coaching, the biggest thing is it has to be client-led. You go where the client wants to go. You never take them where they don't want to go. You can test things, as you just said, but you can test resistance. I'll give you a small example. Silence. So in a session, you have to practice some sort of silence, and some people are so uncomfortable with silence. So obviously you don't leave the first time you meet them or second time you meet them, you don't give them a lot of silence. You can test with a few things. Another way to know how traumatized they are actually is if you drop them a compliment. What are they going to do with it? And it's so interesting because a lot of traumatized people do not accept compliments. I'm not saying everyone who doesn't accept a compliment is traumatized, but I'm saying they have a hard time validating themselves or understanding themselves. It's a little bit what you're saying with this relationship with the self. So you test and see where that goes, and this is how you can also see the progress if someone is healing and recovering better. If, like, I remember when I started therapy, I would not. I don't accept compliments. And then at one point, she would give me a compliment later on. I'd be like, yeah, it's true. I did it. Yes, good job. You know, so you can see that. But that's the thing. It's all about being client-led. You know, at the end of the day, if that's where they want to go, they go. You give them options. You try to reframe. They don't want to. You can't do much about it. And that's okay. It's a lot about validation.
Exactly. It's about validation. It's about letting them lead where they want to go. Because at the end of the day, once you give them, you know, the wheel, they can drive their own life experience and everything. You would notice that actually they want to make decisions.
Yeah.
They have choices. They're actually thinking of themselves differently. They're confident to go there.
But that's the thing. Like, as I told you, like, before I met you and before I got into this journey, I didn't even know there are other options. And the same with trauma recovery is most likely these people were never listened to. We're never had these conversations, never asked these questions. So once you start asking these questions, you open a whole door, you know, a whole chapter. So, yeah, I didn't know. I mean, as I told you, you just show up. You listen to the doctor because the doctor knows best. You are so disconnected from yourself that you don't trust your instincts and what you do and what you want to do, you know? So, no, I think you're doing a great job in opening that space for people because, yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know at all that there was any power in it.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting and so important for women.
Yeah. I want to ask you about postpartum. So does the doula continue in the postpartum?
We usually, so as a birth doula, we have one session after the birth, which is usually around 2 weeks. I like to do it in between 2 weeks to 1 month because this is where the hormones has done its job and it's becoming a bit more challenging. The first few days somehow are the easiest because baby's sleeping a lot. Like I would say the first 3-4 days. After that, you start to realize how your baby functions, that he has no cycles, by the way. Like, so you just have to go with the flow. and then after 2 weeks, this is where you usually like starts not coping as much as you did at first because it was all new. You know, when something is new, you're like so excited about it. But then there is a moment where you're like, can I do that? Can I continue? It's been 2 weeks. I'm already like so drained. How can I continue more than 2 weeks, you know? So usually this is where we come, we show up, we ask the question, because usually people, when they visit you, they would tell you, how is the baby? They look at the baby. They want to even cuddle the baby.
I hear about that.
What about the mother?
No one asks anything about her.
Yeah, how are you? But really not how are you? And then you say, I'm fine. You know, the social one. Yeah. The actual one. How are you feeling? And sometimes when mothers are being asked these questions, most of the time, the hormones does the effects, they cry. Because they just need to release the emotion. And it's a good cry. It's like a cry of like, finally someone is caring about how I feel. And then you can say, I'm so stressed. I feel I'm not getting the hang of it. I'm confused. Those are the feelings that you feel at first. And find me a woman that doesn't feel that. I would give her no word because this never happens. So the fact that you're actually opening up the topic, and you can also even tell her, like, what I love doing, if you need to rest, let me take care of the baby. Just have a nap. Don't worry, the baby will be fine. The skin to skin is also helping. Like, we help women to actually connect physically with their baby, skin to skin, because you will notice how the baby feels so relaxed. When the baby feels relaxed on your skin, you actually, like, the hormones, the bonding of the hormones actually make it, and then you have endorphins coming to you. So baby's endorphins are communicated to you. So you feel good. So the skin to skin is always very important. Don't leave your baby in a corner and you're like, he can't sleep. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to shake him. Nothing works. Just take a step back, skin to skin, just sleep with him, like, you know, just relax. Don't, also a very important thing, have things figured out. So don't think of cooking, of cleaning, of taking care of anything else. You have to be just with your baby.
We're expected to entertain people.
No, don't.
You know?
Don't. Yeah. It's really important. Yeah. Your partner is with you. You have someone helping out. You have things figured out in advance, because this way you're actually focusing on only one task, which is not easy. Yeah. But I mean, even if you have to wake up at night, in the day, you can be sitting for hours in a couch, and it is perfectly fine. No one will say, she's such a lazy woman. Look at her. She's just sitting with her baby. And no, just like live it this way. You know, it's called nesting. Yeah. It's called the golden month. Actually, some cultures, they start to do that. For 1 month, the mother stays in bed.
I heard about it. It's in Japan and Korea.
Exactly.
There are hotels dedicated for it.
Exactly. Even here in Dubai, you start to have those retreats.
Yes, I started getting the ads for them.
Exactly. So it's to show you what women need when they're in postpartum. They need to be pampered. They need care. They need to feel supported. If they just need to cry and release, just vent, let them vent, let them express themselves. You will see the difference.
When does postpartum become dangerous?
So you have approximately a bit less than 10% of women who actually go into postpartum depression. Postpartum depression and PTSD as well. You have postpartum PTSD that exists. So whenever you feel like, even though people are here for you, like you can't even take care of the baby, you start having very, very dark thoughts. You can't sleep even when the baby sleeps. You can't find a way to relax. You're always high alert to the extent that you forget about yourself. You're actually dissociating and you don't feel happy about anything. You're always on edge. This is where you should go and talk to your doctor. It can first be your primary caregiver. It can be your gynecologist, anyone that you trust, and express your feelings, but don't bury them, because they will never be fixed if you don't express them.
The more
if
you
don't
resist it,
seek
the more it will
support. Exactly. So
yeah.
you need to look for those little symptoms where they're so negative. You feel you can't get out of it. You feel you can't even take care of your baby, for example, or take care of yourself, or you don't feel like your mind is at rest just a little bit. This is where it becomes dangerous, because how can you get out of it? The longer you stay in it, the longer you are going to stay in it, basically. So you have to take action.
Maybe people think it just goes away. Does it go away?
It goes away. I mean, it depends which level you reach. If it's proper postpartum depression, no. I mean, you need to be somehow supported. It doesn't have to be medical treatment necessarily, but at least you need to be able to have some kind of psychological support.
Okay.
Other people who know you, who know how you cope with things, who know how you've been doing from the beginning to now, and they feel like it's been lasting. Like usually after 2-3 months, you start having things, you have this 3-month adaptative period. I don't know if you've heard that as well, but every new big change in your life takes 3 months to actually adapt to it, whether it's a change of jobs, it's a relocation in a new place.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Becoming a mother is, I think, one of the biggest change and shift.
Yeah.
So give it 3 months. For 3 months, you might feel very bad, but you will always have those moments where you actually feel good and proud, When you are in postpartum depression,
I think it's constant.
It goes beyond the 3 months, and you don't see any pleasure.
Yeah.
You don't even you look at your baby and you are completely dissociating. You're like, this baby is just bringing me difficulty, and you blame him.
And I wonder if you already had a traumatic birth, and then you add this to it, which is a hormonal shift, and how you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's all linked to each other. Yeah, everything is linked to each other. So you have to look for those signs. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of our episode. Marian, thank you so much for your time and the effort you're putting towards it. Like, it was such a surprise when you told me, oh yeah, I'm training to be a doula. I'm like, oh, from advertising to doula, and the same from advertising. I still think of myself as an advertising person. From advertising to trauma recovery, I love the journey that we both got on, and I think we're both in the similar trajectories where we want to make an impact beyond advertising. I would like to say.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to our journey.
Yes, me too.
We're gonna start soon. Just like, again, I can't believe I'm having this episode. I can't believe that I'm sharing this announcement. It's a big shift. I am scared, and if you are, you should be too. I mean, not you should be, but I understand you're valid. Is there anything you wanna leave us with?
I think for all the women who listened now, I want them to start questioning whether they have a choice or no in everything, and including this, and most importantly in this, becoming a mother is a choice. Hopefully, I mean, for sometimes. But at the end of the day, continuing with it should give you this ability to be a decision maker. And I cannot stress this enough. You are the decision maker of your life. And I'm also talking about to men because they are fathers, they are partners, and they have a role to play.
Yeah.
A
Don't
role
just
to
show up.
play during pregnancy, a role to play during childbirth. And they have to listen to the instinct of their wives because they know better how to handle it. They might feel that they need to listen to the doctors a lot more because they know better, but please trust your wife. She knows better what's for her.
And I truly agree now when I read this statement where a woman would not forget how she was treated during pregnancy, and I truly believe in it now. Whether it's from people around you, your friends, the doctors, or everyone, I take it to heart because I feel you're already in a very vulnerable place. Your hormones are crazy. There's so much to figure out, and I think people can only and should be supportive of your decisions, right? So thank you. Women have a decision. Also in our region, a lot of people enter these things without thinking much of it. You know, even like a few years ago, my family was like, when you're having kids, I'm like, why? I'm the one who's doing it, not you. You're gonna like see them once a year. What's the point? You know, and I feel there's a lot of pressure that's unnecessary and unwarranted to our people through the grandmothers and the mothers and everything to have kids. But I feel a lot of people enter it, even if it's conscious, it's unconscious in one way or choiceless in one way, you know? So I love this message, and I really hope people do question more and really enter with fierceness, let's say, because I think that's what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you again, Marine, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Hopefully you found this enlightening like I did. Please comment, share, and see you next time.